Friends, I'm here this afternoon after work talking with one of my work buddies that I've known for about 5 years, Kit Roberts. Kit is just a lady that has it all together and is on top of her game and is an awesome worker and has a big time impact on our operations here at Caroline's Healthcare System Blue Ridge. But we're after hours talking because Kit, hey, what are you doing? Come on in.
You were actually recording.
Yeah, I'm recording an interview, a quick interview with Kit.
But I just interrupted it. Can you
No. It's Stephanie.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I found that, but I'll catch up with you.
Okay.
Yeah, don't put me on there.
There's the blooper.
That's okay. So that's all right. We just had somebody checking in. So the reason I'm here tonight, well, it's not even night. It's
Evening. It's afternoon. Late afternoon.
So I was telling Kit about the fact that I feel like I was addicted to sugar for probably 55 years of my life, and I was telling her how I kind of felt like I'd overcome it, and it changed my life, and that really is a thing, sugar addiction. And Kit shared with me something that I thought was interesting, and she said she wouldn't mind. We had a little bit of an intimate talk about it, and then she said she wouldn't mind doing an interview about this. So Kit, tell the people what you told me. First of all, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Tell us what you do a little bit, and then tell us about the thing that you overcame in your life.
All right. I appreciate the opportunity. This is I'm glad I'm at a place in my life where I can share this. We've worked together about 5 years. I do the corporate health and wellness here. That's kind of been my passion. Working with our local companies, trying to help them, be well. So obviously, the interest in food and, you sharing about having a sugar addiction, I can appreciate that and definitely value all the things that you've done to overcome that. And I did share with you that I have had an addiction myself, and that was with alcohol. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I thought about it. 10 years ago, this time in May, I was actually in rehab. So I went on Mother's Day in 2011. I went Mother's Day weekend to a rehab. But there was a lot that led up to getting to that place.
See, Kit, what kind of blew my mind is, like I say, Kit is one of those women that seems to just absolutely have it all together. Very efficient in her work, organized. Would not have been the person I thought would ever have had a problem with alcohol. And so, tell me, how did the problem develop, and when did you really know you had a problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. I firmly believe that there is genetic predisposition to it. My father was an alcoholic. He did have, he eventually recovered and died with, 30 odd years of recovery. So it's in my family. I would have been better off to have just left alcohol alone, because I think I had the propensity to it to begin with, to become an alcoholic. I think during college, I drank, we all partied, or a lot of us partied in college, but I think I began to see that I drank a little differently than other people did. But it wasn't until I was, I guess in my early 30s, when I really realized that I thought I probably had a problem, but my mentality was, if I really want to quit, I can quit. And I just don't want to. That was sort of the thing that I kept saying, I just don't want to, because it wasn't affecting my work. I didn't have a DUI. I wasn't living under a bridge. You're right. I didn't fit any of what I thought of your classic alcoholic was, even though I should have, in retrospect, neither was my dad. We always said he was a very high functioning alcoholic, and he achieved some really phenomenal things. I just, I think I went to my first AA meeting in 1996.
96, so it's been a while.
But that was my first AA meeting, and like I said, I didn't go to rehab until 2011.
Wow. So you acknowledged you had a problem for a long time and started trying to do some sort of, in some ways it's exactly what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
In that I knew I had a problem because I could see my weight swelling and I felt bad, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do before and everything. But finally there came a point where and I've sort of told the story on my YouTube channel, but I'll tell it again maybe before the end of this. But I came to a point where it was, okay, it's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
I got to make a real serious 100% committed change.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, first of all, how was it that you said you were a functional alcoholic?
Mm-hmm.
How do you personally define alcoholism? What is it you think that constituted the fact you're alcoholic?
That's a good question, a really good question. It's not necessarily about how frequently you drink. It's about the inability to control it once you start. You know, as soon as I put a sip of alcohol into my body, it ignited a chemical dependency that I had no control over. Yep. I would just drink and drink, and you know, you just start drinking, and it's just hard to stop until you go to bed or pass out or whatever it is you do. So it's that craving, and I think that was the hardest part for me to overcome, was the craving for alcohol, because every morning I would get up and I would have the same conversation with myself. I'm not going to drink today. And every afternoon, as it progressed, when I was kind of in that end stage of it for me, every afternoon about 4 o'clock, I'd start thinking about where was I going to stop to get I got wine, and I was drinking boxed wine. I mean, yeah. you go from great wine,
fine wines
to just box, whatever.
As much I was like,
right.
If the for me, if the Lent truffles weren't around, I'd go buy a box of Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls.
Yeah.
And you're right. I wouldn't sit there and eat one little baggie of the Swiss cake roll and then save the rest for later in the week.
Right.
I might have had that intent in my head, but before the night was over, that box of Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls was gone. It's so in that regard, I totally get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So let me ask you this: were you ever able? Was it the kind of thing where you could stop for a little while, then you'd fall off the wagon?
Mm-hmm.
You could stop for a little while.
Yep.
Tell me something about that.
So that was sort of the nature of it for me. I would, and I would, I'd go to AA. I'd get 30 days. I'd get 60 days. I did finally reach a point that I desperately wanted to be sober. And, one of the things that they would tell us in AA is that, pray that God will remove your desire to drink. And I did. I would pray that prayer, and it just didn't happen for a long time. And I really think, for me, it was about my willingness to totally surrender and say, I cannot do this on my own. And fortunately, I had somebody in my life who made it possible for me to get the help that I needed. But it wouldn't, my husband could have talked to me till he was blue in the face. My son could have asked me to stop drinking. And it really isn't until you make that decision that I am no longer going to subject myself to this. But it was hard. And like I say, I wanted to stop. I really did. And I think a lot of people, and maybe you can relate to that, you quit, when you're ready, you're finally ready. And it takes what it takes. But I tried numerous times for a period of several years. And I would have, good times. But by the end, I was drinking every day. Going to work every day, being a very good employee. But I drank every afternoon, evening. Hid bottles, that was another key thing, hiding, drinking, lying about it, really not living an authentic life. Yeah. And I think that's hard in retrospect, to realize I wasn't living my best authentic self.
People think of alcoholism as a big time taboo thing, and they don't think of like an addiction to like overeating as being a big taboo thing, but it's so many similarities. Like, I didn't want people to know I was eating the whole box of Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls. I didn't want them to know that instead of buying one candy bar, I really had 7 or 8 candy bars, and I was eating all of them. I didn't want people to know that box of Honey Bunches of Oats, I could eat it all in one day. And so I sort of hid. When you start realizing you've got a little bit of shame about it, it's when it might be a good signal that you really are ashamed of it and that you really do realize it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So you got a person that helped you out. What did that person that helped you out do? What was it that really helped, make that solid change in your life?
So I love to tell this story because it is obviously a pivotal time in my life. I was working as an HR manager for a FQHC, so a federally qualified health center. So I reported directly to the CEO, and we had regular weekly meetings that we would talk about whatever we needed to talk about. And she was not only the CEO, but she and I had become friends. And we were having our regular meeting, and I just blurted out to her in the meeting, I said, I'm an alcoholic and I've got a problem. And I will never forget the look on her face. I mean, here's the CEO of this company. She had a pen in her hand, and she put that pen down, and she leaned into me and she said, Kit, what do you need from me? What can I do to help? And that was, my employer, my CEO made it possible. She said, I will take you home right now today. I'll take you, if you want to go to rehab, I'll take you, I'll help you pack. I'll take you to the airport. You just tell me what it is that you need, and I will make sure that you get it. And so I said, I think I need to go to rehab. And so 3 days later, I was on a plane. And she did ask that I share with senior leadership, the other folks there. She did ask that I share with them because I was going to be gone for 30 days. I did go to West Palm Beach. I figured if I was going to go, I was going to go somewhere where it was nice. I had insurance that helped, pay for that. And that was the turning point. And I still have all the cards that my senior leaders wrote to me, and the notes that she sent to me. The people that supported me, it got to be a joke when I was at rehab that when they'd say, okay, mail's here, they'd go, well, let's go sit beside Kit because we know she's going to get mail. I had so much support for something that, you're right, is so taboo. And there are times in my life I'll pick up the phone and I'll call her and I say, I just want you to know how grateful I am, and you will always be a part of my recovery story to this day.
Kit, what was it? You said something also that struck me too, because I went through a divorce. I had the majority of my problem before I got married to the woman I'm married to now. But you said your husband could talk to you till you're blue in your face, but however, this other person, your boss, was able to somehow reach you in a very simple way. What was it that was different? You knew your husband loved you. I mean, I know that the people in my life that have tried to talk me down from things loved me, and yet I sort of ignored them too. What do you suppose it is that really really registered and shook you to the core enough to go ahead and go into that rehab?
I think she gave me permission to acknowledge what I knew deep down in my heart, and somebody who didn't have a stake in it necessarily, who I know she cared about me, but she didn't have a vested interest so much as the people who are the closest to me did. But just her, I think her just giving me the permission to be true to myself.
Interesting in that even though you know that this other person loves you, you realize that there's more than one motive. It's not just me. It's the fact that our marriage could be stronger, whatever like that. And, whereas your boss could have
fired me,
and instead she says, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I guess one reason I'm asking this is how can we help people, other people have addictions, right?
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. How hard was the change to make? How you go through the rehab? Tell me about the rehab process. What was it like?
That was phenomenal. It was dual diagnosis. So if you went there with an addiction, you also, a lot of times there's depression, anxiety that go along with it. A lot of people drink or have, I think food. I think a lot of people use food to, stuff emotions. So there's oftentimes, two coexisting issues. And so fortunately that rehab addressed both issues if you had, dual diagnosis. A lot of therapy, a lot of talking, and just being surrounded by other people. Sometimes just being around other people who you are like, we're all struggling together. Yeah. It was the first time in a long time, because I said the place where I lived was right across the street from the beach. It was kind of like, remember Melrose Place?
Yeah.
It kind of had that Melrose Place feel, but it was wonderful to be with other women. Because I drank by myself. I mean, I always joke and say I was a closet drinker, because I literally drank in my closet. I mean, I hid it. I wasn't out partying. I was at home drinking. So I was realizing that alcohol had become a prison for me. Mm-hmm. And I had been set free. And, there's faith that came into play. I have always been a Christian. I have been in church hungover. Wow. I wish that the churches would bring AA meetings out of the basement and into, I just think there's more that we can do. I challenge organizations and companies to have EAP programs that they make available to their employees. We have to create a culture where it is safe to be vulnerable, and to be open. And I think that's hard. I don't think we're there yet.
Kit, when you came out of rehab, did you really feel like you had done it? I mean, when did you really know you beat it?
So I relapsed. So that was in 2011. I had a relapse in May. So my sobriety day is May 25th, 2013. And I had a couple of, times where I drank some, but I had a major relapse over Memorial Day weekend. I went out and I knew I was going to drink. I went out to Home Depot and I got a bunch of vegetables, and I'm like, I'm going to plant a garden and I'm going to drink while I do it. And that's exactly what I did. So I know it's funny. So that became what I called my drunk garden. Because what I realized is that, if I wanted that garden to grow, I needed to take care of it. I needed to water it. I needed to pull weeds. And that's the way I treated my sobriety from then on out. I had to take care of it. I had to protect it. I had to do whatever it was going to take. And I read from matter of fact, I have one of my little daily devotions here. The next day, that devotion said, may this relapse be the one that kicks you up the stairs. And it was up the stairs. And it was, and I haven't had a drink since then.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. So let's say there's a person out there watching this, and they know deep down they've got a problem, and they've done the same sort of thing you have, same sort of thing I have. They win little small battles and they lose a bigger one.
Right.
And it's back and forth, it's seesaw, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, or maybe they're spiraling downward. Toward the end there, when I finally had a doctor that's a good friend of mine just really get me and shake me. Mm-hmm. I was spiraling downward. I had just kind of given up. Mm-hmm. And let's say you got a person doing that kind of thing. What's your best advice for them? I mean, let's say maybe they don't have a person like that blessed person that was in your life that came in there and made that difference. What can you say as somebody on a YouTube video that might have some impact and rock them enough to maybe have them go get some help?
I think, like I said earlier, I recognized I was living in a prison. And there is so much more. I have such a good life now. It's not perfect. I still argue with my husband. I still get frustrated with people, but I have joy, and there's just a better way. There's joy to be found. And I get it. I get what it's like to feel hopeless. I mean, yeah. There were times that I was like, I'm not going to try anymore. But something inside of me just wouldn't let me lay down.
Now I know now one of the things I want to ask you. I know you're into fitness. You like you work out and stuff.
Yeah.
Has that been something that has been a key to helping you, or is that just some sort of tangential? Is that the word I want to use? Tangent type thing that you just do as a result of cleaning up?
So that's a great yes, it definitely replaced my fix, if you will. So I did start exercising, and I definitely started exercising, eating better. I just wanted to take care of myself because I realized I'd probably put it, my liver. I mean, I think that's one thing people fail to think about is the damage that you're doing to your internal organs. So I thought I want to get healthy, but I did find that exercise definitely is key for me. I mean, that's kind of like my mental health. I exercise every morning. It releases the endorphins. It's definitely beneficial for me. But I think the key is finding some people who will love you enough till you can love yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I found that in a 12-step program. That was key for me.
So the 12-step thing really is real.
Oh my gosh. I have said I found more love in a room full of people, a room full of drunks. We that's what we say. We're a bunch of drunks, but we're all fighting for the same thing. We all come from varied backgrounds, political views, socioeconomic, religious. I mean, as different can be, but some of my nearest and dearest friends are in those rooms. So yeah, I would say to somebody, just don't be afraid to ask for help, because that's the only way you're ever going to get going down the right path. And there are people there who want to help.
Apart from the fact that you say you felt like you escaped from a prison, you've been released from a prison, how else has your life just massively changed for the good since you've made this move, this change in your life?
So I think I was, as I said, I think I was always a Christian, but I think I have become to understand, I moved from religion to a relationship.
Yeah.
And I did question God. I was like, why did you let me go? Why didn't you remove my obsession to drink? I cried. I can remember being in my basement just laying on the floor, crying, going, God, please, please, please take this away. And he eventually did, but he did it in his time, and I had to learn what I needed to learn, and I had to go through. But what I've learned is to think about other people and what they might be going through.
Yeah, wow.
I definitely think it made me realize I couldn't do it on my own. And I think sometimes for people who are like high functioning, it's harder because we assume our lives are still manageable, even though it isn't.
It's a pride thing in a way.
It is a pride thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what God was doing. I think he was like, let me just show you. And so he humbled me to where I had to ask for help. I had to rely on somebody else. I used to think, I don't need to go to rehab. I mean, only those people go to rehab. Well, I was one of those people. And so I'm so grateful that it was exactly the way it should have been, because it definitely humbled me. I live with a lot of gratitude now.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they teach you in AA is to keep a gratitude list. Write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Sometimes it's maybe just to get up in the morning and not have a hangover. So I definitely think, I wouldn't trade what I've gone through if it changed where I was today.
I don't want to shift over toward me since this is about you, but it's interesting. I keep hearing all these things are so similar. One of the things you said, you asked God, why didn't you take this addiction? Why won't you just rely? I can't think of the times that I'd say, Lord, now I need some help. I need some help with this. I wasn't calling it a sugar addiction. I wasn't calling it addiction at all. I called it I've got a sweet tooth. I've got I used to talk propensity. I've got a predisposition to just want to eat. Lord, you've just given me a mighty big appetite. Why'd you make me that way, God? And it was funny. So, real quickly, my story, which people can go watch in more depth, is I'd been told I was pre-diabetic for 12, 15 years. Tony, you're pre-diabetic. You're getting close. You're going to have diabetes when you get certain old. And at a point, I just gave up for the last 6 months. That I would try to exercise. I'd try to lose weight. I'd try to eat right, and I keep falling off the wagon. Eventually, I just gave up. The last 6 months was pelican ice and little Debbie cakes and potato chips and every junky thing I could eat, and candy bars, chocolate upon chocolate, and I just gave up and said, okay, I got swole up to 335 pounds, and my doctor, who was a good friend of mine, came over after I'd been for my checkup, and he just pulled me in, and like I say, it's almost like he shook me. He didn't grab me and shake me. He said, Tony, and he sat down at the bar at my house, because he lives fairly close to me, and he said, this is where you're at. This is what your A1C is. This is full-blown diabetes. You got it bad. And I knew I was feeling horrible. I knew how horrible I felt. And I knew I'd been doing wrong. I was miserable. And he said, these are the things you got to look forward to in the next 5 years. You could have kidney failure. You could go blind. You could possibly lose a limb. One of the worst things, you could have stroke. You could have a stroke and you could be paralyzed. And he starts laying it down. And I mean, looking me dead in the eye in a non-judgmental way, just think, this is what you got, buddy. And we're talking about the next 5 to 8 years. All these things could happen. Multiple things will start to happen. You got to make a change. Are you going to make a change now? And the interesting thing that you said that struck me so funny, and I said this in the other video, is that night I prayed to the Lord, said, Lord, I've prayed to you hundreds of times anyway to help me get rid of this. What am I going to do this time? Are you really going to help me get over this?
Yeah.
What am I going to do, Lord? And it was funny, the next day, it's like in my YouTube feed, and me, I'm a guitar player, and so it's the big hobby, sort of passion in my life, other than my wife and my family, and in my YouTube feed popped up this video where Ed Bradley had interviewed Eric Clapton, great guitar player, and Clapton wanted to be on there to talk about his addictions, and Ed Bradley says, Eric, tell me about your addictions. Did it start with heroin? And he looks at Ed and says, no, Ed, it started with sugar. And he started and Ed was in disbelief, and Eric said, yeah, he said I learned very early in my childhood that I felt different, and I could sort of lose the blues kind of thing if I just ate spoonfuls of sugar. And then eventually it parlayed over to alcohol, it parlayed over to cocaine, to heroin, and all the other stuff that Eric Clapton did to become one of the super addicts of our time, and also one of the brilliant geniuses of music. And the thing that hit me is like the Lord sent me that message. The Lord sent me a message from one of my great heroes.
Oh, wow.
To convince me that, number one, I had an addiction, the same one my hero did. I just didn't progress to alcohol and cocaine. I just stuck with the original one. I stuck with his first addiction and never left it. And so it was what struck me about what you said and what I'm thinking here in my head is that when I really, really, really reached out for God, not just, oh Lord, help me this day, blah blah blah. When I really meant it, when I really had the love and concern of somebody that really 100%, you're right, he's not vested. Tom Meek's not invested in me, whether I live or die, other than he's going to make a little bit of money, but Tom's my friend. And he had no reason to. He had nothing to gain other than just he wanted to be really my friend and wanted to really be honest, brutally honest with me. And so the honesty of a friend, the concern of a friend, and then crying out to God, and God, in a very unexpected way, finally getting to me. And so the thing I hope people hear what you say. I hope that somebody pops up in their life, and if they don't, then maybe it's even you in this video.
Oh.
And then that this registers with them, and then they cry out to God. And the 12-step again. I've not had to go through a 12-step program in my life. I just but you know what? It probably would help me to have a support group. So, do you still to this day lean on a support group? Tell us about that. I mean,
so of course during COVID, and I said that was probably one of the hardest things for me about COVID, was because all of my coping mechanisms got taken away from me. I went to the gym every morning.
Oh, yeah.
I went to AA meetings on a Saturday morning, and I went to church. So those three things all were taken away. So COVID was really hard for me. They did start doing Zoom AA meetings, which I'm thankful for. I could still do those meetings and just stay in touch with the people who are my friends in that. But that was hard. That was hard, and I think that's something I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that's where we need to start, is recognizing what we've just been through with people with addictions, whether it's food. I mean, people were home a lot. I think this has been a hard year, and I think we need to remember that as we come out of this. There are going to be things that we are going to have to deal with, and I think addictions are going to be one of them, and mental health. I think those are two things that are hard. I did want to share one funny thing. I can laugh at it now, but I definitely believe that there is a correlation between whatever gene causes somebody to become an alcoholic. I think sugar shares that same gene, because I have found at times I love sugar. I love chocolate. I can consume a lot of chocolate, and I can find myself eating it in the same way that I drank, hiding it, opening up a candy bar, hiding the wrappers, not eating it where anybody can see. And 2 years ago at Christmas, I had made some chocolate crinkle cookies, and we were having a party. This was pre-COVID. We were having a party, and I took several of them and put them in a baggie and hid them in my bathroom underneath my cabinet, because I wanted to make sure I had those. And I remember looking in the mirror, eating those chocolate cookies, and thinking, this is exactly how I drank. And so I did a 40-day sugar fast that was actually a spiritual 40-day sugar fast. And I realized during that sugar fast that my body, like you said, my body reacts almost the same way when I feed it sugar as when I gave it alcohol. I feel a lot better when I don't indulge in a lot of sugar. And you probably recognize that. I mean, emotionally, the brain fog, the just thinking more clearly. There is definitely, I don't know, but tell me if you feel those clarity when you kind of gave up sugar.
When I finally gave it up and just realized, no, I'm not going to do that. I said to myself, you know what, sugar's poison. I didn't realize that. And when we all need sugar for our brain to function and stuff, we just don't need refined.
Right.
We don't need to mainline it. I mean, we're going to get it with, I eat tangerines and bananas still and apples.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I get a natural kind of sugar. And I've always been a big snacker muncher. And one of the things I said is, it was fun. Another thing that's kind of ironic is in my head. I was thinking, God, I love to just snack. I love just to eat. Potato chips are empty carbohydrates. So I said, well, it's not just sugar, but typically I'd like to go get like Cracker Jack type stuff, the sugary corn popcorn stuff. And I thought, what am I going to do when I get the munchies? And it was like maybe the next day or something. I go in, and Danette, our boss, had a can of almonds on her desk, and she was eating those almonds. And I don't know, I'm just watching her. I was looking for signs from God. And so it's funny. I took that as an interesting sign, because the other thing is, Stephanie knows when they do my well works, they'd always say, well, you don't have enough of the good cholesterol, and the good cholesterol was the HDL, is that what it is? You usually only get it by eating nuts and stuff. The almonds are a great source of that. So it's interesting. I started eating almonds. Anytime I want something sugary or sweet, even though it's not sugary, it's salty and it was dense in plant fats. But I would eat that. So, and to answer your question, it's funny. I noticed that that when I would eat a candy bar, eventually I'd get a little bit of a high, a little bit of rush, and I'd start to crash, start to feel tired, start to feel, you're right, kind of foggy, sort of depressed a little bit sometimes. Like I want to go take a nap and lay up to sleep. And I felt depressed. It would ultimately lead to some depression. And I started realizing when I started giving up that sugar and snacking on those good things, the things I knew that were good for me, even if they weren't low calorie,
right?
Even if they weren't, quote unquote marketed as necessarily good for you, I could tell I functioned differently. I thought different. I won't say I got suicidal, but you can get some suicidal thoughts when you're feeding your body the wrong thing. You can get some thoughts. Well, does life even matter? Come on, Lord, just go ahead and take me and get me out of this. You can have those kind of thoughts. I don't have those kind of thoughts anymore. Now you're right. You mentioned think about other people. Now I think about people that I can help or that I can support or that I can build up. What can I do to make my brother's life better, my mom's life better? What can I do in the world that is useful to people? And that's one reason I do the YouTube channel. People ask me questions. Can I answer those questions? Is there something useful that I can give to the world? And before, when I was addicted to sugar, fully addicted to sugar, really all I thought about was getting my next sugar fix and taking a nap.
Yeah.
And feeling sorry for myself, and I, for some reason I was more self-centered, I think, and I think that's right. I think when you stop thinking about feeding yourself and indulging yourself, you start thinking about where can I put my energy, where it'll do something good in the world.
Yeah.
And Kit, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I will say this: there'll be some people watching this who'll want to. They're teetering, or they're. We've already discussed about getting some help and all that, but let's say you are the help tonight, this afternoon, whatever it is. What is, once again, what would you say to that person? I mean, what can you say to them to make them value themselves and realize? And I know this is the hardest question I'm asking here, because I don't know how I'd answer it other than. How do we really get real? And maybe that's the great mystery, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. How do we get real if it looks like help isn't coming? Because I think that's probably the place a lot of people are in. You and I are fortunate that we had somebody that cared for us, and we did have a foundational belief in God. If you don't have that, what's the answer, do you think? Is that the great mystery? Is that the challenge?
I don't have an answer, because for me it is ultimately it's about faith for me, ultimately. And I guess the one thing I could say is that when you think you don't matter to anybody else, you always matter to God.
Yeah. Amen.
And I thought about this. I was at the beach this week, and I was just thinking about a variety of things, and I thought, I had the realization that God never loved me less during any of that time. Never loved me less. Where I'm at now in my life, I'm able to love him more.
Wow.
And I think that's what it boils down to, is really beginning to understand how much I matter. Maybe if I didn't matter to anybody else in this whole world, I mattered enough to God that he never gave up on me.
If God has not taken you out of this world,
you're here
then there's a reason you're here.
And I have prayed for years, probably for about the past 5 years. I've really been praying about what is my purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. We go through, like you've created a YouTube channel that you can share.
All kinds of mess on. I know.
Yeah, but it's great.
there is a goal here with my YouTube, and that is to share something that can enrich somebody's life.
Yeah.
Whether it's playing a guitar riff or showing people a hike that I like, or a recipe that Nikki likes, or how cute a golden doodle can be, and sometimes it is a Christian message. Sometimes I share a gospel song or something.
Yeah.
I try to always end my videos with peace to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean that. I mean, I mean, I wish peace and hope and love and joy to everybody, and I know that's what you want. One of the things I know, because you mentioned to me, is that you're planning on doing some sort of website to help people with life improvement, right? Can you tell me a little bit about what you're thinking about doing?
So long story short, like I say, I've been praying about it, and I feel like this year, really things have kind of finally opened up about what direction I want to go. I'm getting my certification as a life coach, and so I want to do, I really want to focus in on working with empty nester women and helping them design a life that's happy, healthy, and whole.
Wow.
So the name of my company is going to be called A Renovated Life, because I feel like I've been able to have a renovated life. But the other thing I really want to focus on too, and I'm working on how to get there, is I'd love to work with companies and help them figure out how they can be that boss.
Yeah.
They help me.
Wow.
That is huge, because like you said, who else might be there? You know, they might not have family, but if they're working, there might be an employer who might just be the right person for them.
It would be awesome to interview that former boss you have. Do you think that this person, that she would ever consider that?
She might. She might.
I mean,
I'm still in touch with her. I'm going to her husband's 60th birthday coming up soon.
Don't anyone think for a minute that this whole talk with Kit and I was to promote what Kit's doing. But I think it's awesome. But she's just at the beginning stages of starting it up.
Yeah.
But I'll be glad to interview you, and if you come to some brilliant conclusions and know some things that you think will help people, let's share that, and I'll be glad to help you in any way that I can to do that. And I don't know to what extent you want me to continue on with this. I could just, I guess at this point there may be more to come. Me sitting talking with Kit Roberts about what she's doing, this whole thing, her adventure as a life coach. It's going to be coming out in her potential business. I'm sure it'll be a side business. You're not going to leave here, right?
No. This is something I want to do. I'm really passionate about it and want to find a way to kind of live out that passion. And you know, Tony, I'll let you, if you want to plug in down at, I don't know how YouTube works. If you want to, I'll give you some contact information.
Yeah.
So if somebody feels like they want to reach out to me, I'm happy to try to communicate with them, because it took me a couple of years to even be willing to share my story.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think I was afraid I would fail. And so I didn't tell, you know, and that's the worst part. And so I am now, when you said, you know, would you be willing, I was like, absolutely. Because I want to show people that alcoholism doesn't look like the person under the bridge. You know, it could be your very best friend and they're hiding it from you. And I just want to start conversations so that people can get the help they need.
There's a whole nother thing besides just the addiction thing that we're ending with here. And we had no plan. You and I had no plan with this talk.
No.
It's just a totally impromptu plan. But the whole thing is like the fact that we're doing this YouTube video, and that I've given you advice that I think you should start a YouTube channel and share at least once a month.
Yeah.
Get on there and share, just even if it's just your thoughts. Maybe you do a live blog or something. It's just a thought. The thing that's interesting is this whole YouTube thing for me. I didn't know that I had anything of value to share with anybody, and I had spent 20 years behind the camera interviewing other people, talking with them, getting the real scoop from these people that are important, that have important things to say, and I never turned the camera on myself, you know, unless it was some family something, then I'd give the camera to somebody, and I might show them something I got, or you know, and it was interesting. I my whole little YouTube journey was I started sharing some hiking videos, and some of my friends that couldn't hike because of physical disabilities liked them, and said, Tony, well, I'd like if you show me some other place. And I thought, well, you know, well, somebody got something out of that. I'll share some more. And the thing is, I think the Lord has taken YouTube. And as you know, what happened to me, I was that person that thought, well, you know, I'm a good videographer and I'm a good worker, and I can contribute to these places, but I got nothing really much to say to the world. And the thing I started doing though was listening to people's questions, and and I had no plan for what my YouTube videos would be. People just started asking questions, and I said, well, somebody wants to know this. It's going to be just like you. People are going to have questions. You're not going to answer every question somebody has in this video.
Yeah.
But this video might start a dialogue, or might start questions being asked to you that you hadn't even thought in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And my big advice to you is start that YouTube channel, add it to your whatever resources you're going to have out there for people with your new efforts, and just answer questions and the best you can, and share, and let people in the comments there speak their mind. And what'll happen is people in those comments will start helping each other. And I found that the one magic thing about the whole YouTube phenomenon is that is that you just don't know what it's going to become, and you don't really fully have control over it because you don't know what people are going to say, but you can weed out the mean people. You can delete their comments, and all the good stuff that you know helps other people you can leave.
Yeah.
And so there's never been anything like it, and it will be a huge resource for you, and I think you're going to be very successful because I think your heart's in the right place.
Oh.
Kit, anything else you want to say to people before we shut this down?
I just want to say thank you. You're right. We didn't have any scripted notes, but
just two people that don't give a flying flip what the world thinks. We just want to do good. We really want to do good.
That is it.
So,
and live our best authentic life.
Amen.
Yep. Thank you.
Peace to all who watch. Subscribe to the channel if you like. Be sure to. I tell you, if Kit's links don't appear immediately in this, come back later. They will as soon as she has her page and stuff set up, and can share the links with me. Whatever she's got, I'll put it in the description. If not, then it will be coming in the future.
Perfect.
Thanks. We'll see you.